Good morning or evening, whenever you're watching this. It's around 10 a.m. right now, and about an hour ago, a massive lightning storm started happening. Lily jumped out of bed like crazy. And I got woken up with a really distant memory that I didn't remember I had. As odd as that sounds. And all I kept hearing in my I guess hearing isn't a bad word, or the proper word. It's more like a knowing, like your inner dialogue, but it's behind the inner dialogue. And I kept remembering the word Christ spark. And through just laying in bed and trying to figure out why I was thinking of that word and the strange things I was dreaming about, it's as if something needs to be said about it. And I'm sorry, I'm not tired. I just feel like I've been through days worth of, I don't even know how to describe it. I feel like I've been doing a whole bunch of things and I'm exhausted. The whole thing about the Christ spark, it has nothing to do with religion. Get that through your consciousness first and foremost. Christ has nothing to do with any religions. Religions are based off of something else. The Christed beings, the Christ spark or the Christ flame, everybody has them. They all have the capacity to have this spark in them. Most of us are born with this spark already. And through good actions and deeds and just being a decent human being or a decent living being, you fan the flames of that spark more and more until it's eternal. It can never die, but it can be dimmed. It can be siphoned. And when you're a really good person, and I don't mean good in the duality aspect, I mean good as in you're aligned. You know inside you that there's more to this than just what we see. When you do terrible things, you actually feel bad about them. You have a conscience. Conscience, that's the word. When these things, these attributes and virtues are alive in you, you attract things that don't have that want to feed off of that and use that for themselves. And when they can't, they just want to dim it out and snuff that light out in you. Really good people get turned into really terrible people because they lose their inner conscience. They allow that Christ spark to dim because they don't even know what it is. They attribute it to religions and, spiritual figures and all sorts of things. The truth of it is, though, that where we are, there is a spiritual war going on. And the beings that benefit from this war don't incarnate in flesh because they're unable to. So what they do is interfere with life until specific aspects of life give up their conscience. And they do terrible things, and then they open a gateway or a portal to those beings to bring them in. Most of the time, they don't even know they're doing it. Every time you have an argument or a fight with your partner, when you see somebody in need and you don't help them, when you laugh at terrible things and people getting hurt, when you steal, when you cheat, when you betray, all those things dim the light. When that light is present, you're very aware that Source, God, the originator, that they exist. There doesn't need to be a gender associated with a higher power. You just simply know. And when you know and you accept it as a part of yourself, most of the time you don't even know that it's the Christ spark, or that you have a belief in God. You just live your life and things always work out for you. But the beings that want that flame extinguished or want to use it as a power source, they attempt to rationalize everything and take the magic out of it. They tell you that the law of attraction is the law of attraction, when it's truly magic. It's truly a symphony of you and the infinite creator, bringing things into manifestation, into reality. The word manifestation itself is a form of magic. You are utilizing the forces of creation to bring something into creation that wasn't there before. And those beings can't do that. So when you have somebody really connected, that person's life usually experiences or gets targeted in some way to experience negativity repeatedly, so that spark dims. And normally, in most cases, that spark would never dim, as long as a person continues to do not the right thing, not the good thing, but to flow with life. And that doesn't mean doing bad things here and there. That means when you know right from wrong, you know when to choose which, and you choose. You act as if you're God, and not in a, I'm God, I'm the God of my universe, I can do whatever I want. That's not right. And explaining this in the English language is even more ridiculous. It's virtues, it's morality, it's the moral compass, it's the North Star. When you choose to do the things that perpetuate kindness through the flow of life, that spark becomes brighter. And when you see things that need to be fixed or need to be healed and you choose not to, it dims it. That's why so many relationships and partnerships and this world seems so messed up. Because people know better, but they don't do better. And every time they don't do that better thing, a little bit of darkness comes in. And once that door is cracked open for that darkness to come in, you need more light to shut it. But by the time that darkness is in, you start scoffing at the light. You start dismissing it as nothing, as just energy, as simply intentions or, circumstances and bad luck or whatever. You put labels on things that happen that are bad, and you say it's karma and it's justice or it's this or that. But really, none of that would need to happen. We're here in this stage, in this cycle of Kali Yuga, and we're experiencing the repercussions of every terrible choice made throughout history. Not back and forth, not, stealing from someone and then having things stolen from you, but eons worth of terrible deeds that never went corrected. It's a battle of light and dark, and in between are where the humans are. And every time we choose to allow the dark to expand, we see less and less light. The Christ spark is real, and it's in everybody. Some people call it alignment with Source. But it's so much more than that. It's a state of being that's constant and underneath everything. It's the fuel and the fire that gets things going. That's why in so many religious figures you see the heart that's on fire. Because the Christ spark within the heart ignited and lit that heart on fire. And that heart can't do anything that would cause another person pain. And the way it manifests in real life through the actions of people is through kindness, generosity, gratitude and appreciation, unconditional love, selfless love, but also knowing your worth and your value and appreciating yourself and taking care of yourself and those around you, taking care of nature in the old ways, putting bird feeders out and planting a garden, even if it's just a 2-foot plot of land or a potted plant in your apartment. You volunteer and you do things and you take care of the elderly and the young, and you don't fight. You don't argue. You don't blame. You don't rely on other people to make things better for you. You take an active stance in your life to make things better for yourself without forcing them. But instead you remind yourself of how you were when you were a child, when you were really connected to nature and you were really connected to this light inside you, where things that were really terrible just made no sense to you and sometimes brought you to tears. When we lose that, we start seeing terrible things happening and we think it's normal. Can you imagine a stereotypical angel sitting in front of a television and watching something as like something gruesome, something violent? What do you think that angel would feel? How much horror would that angel have to experience before it rips its own wings off, before it loses faith in God and in a higher power and the universe itself being a kind place, before it becomes jaded? Now you in your life, however long that you've been alive, how much have you experienced that's shown you that you're not good enough, that you're broken and you're ugly, and that the world is a horrible place and that there's violence and evil and, it's just the way it is? How many years have you been shown bloodshed and disease and death and destruction and chaos? Would you show that to your own child? Would you show all that stuff to your own grandmother? And yet, you experience it. You laugh about it with your friends. You post things on social media and say, did you see this episode? Did you see that? Oh, this was gruesome. And then you make memes out of it. And then your children, your nieces and nephews, your siblings, you grow up and then you become the grandparents. How much more gruesome are your grandchildren's experiences going to be if what you're experiencing now already exists and the momentum is flowing towards more and more and more? Eventually you will numb out. You will become numb to the fact that divinity actually exists, because you will have saturated your inner being with so much evil that you barely see the glimmer of that spark inside anything. And you start to steal and cheat and betray, and you think it's okay because you can justify it with some experience that happened to you, and you're like, this happened, so therefore it's okay for me to do something equally terrible because I feel justified and proud in doing what I'm doing because that person deserved it. That's evil. That's darkness. You have to push the brakes on the momentum of the narcissistic energy that has taken over the stream of consciousness of human life. So many people acknowledge that, the elites and they or whatever have such terrible intentions. Yet you don't realize that what you're doing in your day-to-day life is a fractal of what they're doing. You think if Mary Magdalene or Jesus Christ or Buddha or any of them were walking the earth right now, that they would be as sacred as they were back then? Why aren't you? Why are you waiting for someone else to uphold the standard that you feel too exhausted to uphold yourself? The world is a beautiful place. If we can just stitch apart the area of the tapestry of life that has been contaminated so that it can be cleansed. When the archons and energies and powers that be want to manipulate life to give themselves the energy that comes through people who are connected, they don't do it flat out in your face. They drain you like a leaky faucet until there's nothing left in you, and your body starts showing it, and signs and symptoms and illnesses and a simple and basic lack of a desire to live and experience life, where you just go into a repetitive state every day, into an infinite loop of boredom. When you allow your thoughts to dictate your actions. So you sit there and you think, oh, what should I do? And you wait for the words in your mind to speak to you. How do you know those words are yours? There's so much in the world and in reality that you don't comprehend. But your ego has been boosted through television and media and social media and programming and history itself and all the bloodshed for you to think that it's okay, that whatever you're thinking is yours, and that there's just this little bubble you're in, that everything is, taken care of on the outside, that you have all these teams and energies and guides and angels taking care of all the bad, and you're just here to enjoy yourself. Go ahead, indulge, enjoy, thrive, and, you know, have sex with this and take that and eat this and buy that and manifest this, and until you realize years down the line that you've been living a life that has completely conditioned you into doing terrible things without knowing what you're doing. And the people around you start getting hurt. But you don't feel the pain that they feel because you've been taught that talking about negative things or emotions will create more of them. So you allow terrible things to occur without bringing any form of comfort or soothing or solace to anyone, because you're too busy protecting your own energy. And at first it seems very innocent, until you look around the world and you realize everybody needs help. Everybody needs a hug and to be comforted. People are stealing from each other and no one's batting an eye because they're using he said, she said as an excuse. All the while you don't realize that inside of you you're dimming and becoming darker and darker. Which is why you can even tolerate doing these things in the first place. This is why the archetypes existed, so you can see and compare yourself and see where you are. Take a series of things you've experienced in your life. Who throughout history would accept what happened and perpetuate it? And who would have stood up and said, enough is enough? This person deserves better. This world deserves better. God deserves better. But instead you're too busy wanting to live a life that you can say, oh, I did everything. And you don't realize that the word lived reversed means the devil. That the word live reversed is evil. You're not here just to live for yourself. You're part of a family. You're part of the tapestry of light, and you're supposed to be helping each other. You're supposed to be doing one kind deed after another for everyone, including yourself. You're supposed to be using your imagination and your emotions to manifest purity into this world, through every small object to every global, multiversal change through the stream of life. But instead, we're too busy manifesting cell phones. And bigger boobs and vaginas and cars and boyfriends and girlfriends. When all those things would come naturally if you would just align yourself with the actual stream of light. When you can connect yourself with the higher power instead of thinking that you are the only power that exists. You are a fractal, a shimmer of light from the source of all light. A spark, have you ever seen a fiber optic light? There's the base of it, and then from that base come all these strands of light, and they're all connected to the core light. You're one of those strands. Yes, you are God, you are Source, but you are also connected to God and Source. So is everyone else. It's called a co-creation. In the universe, the quantum bubble that you're in, this holographic reality, if it even is holographic, whatever this existence is, this isn't all of it. Your life doesn't begin and end on planet Earth. You're here to reignite the Christ spark within you. You're not here to make yourself a cushy life and just be this stereotype. You're here to heal. Because in some part of your existence, you did a lot of really terrible things, and terrible things were done to you to where you and your spark were dimmed or extinguished. So you're here to reignite it. And through that reignition, everything you desire, want, and dream of that will benefit your life and the life of people around you will come to you easily and effortlessly. It's how it works. And I can give you a million different personal examples, but I'm uncertain if it'll actually help you remember. I've been through a lot of stuff growing up. A lot. From having my blood drained to having terrible people abuse me, and then for me to abuse them in return. I spent a good 30 years of my life doing the best that I could to be who I was, who I knew I was. And not in a personality kind of way. But inside me, I always had a very strong sense of virtue. And I lost that around the time when I was 32 or 33. A lot of things happened in my life that really messed me up. And mind you, the prior 33 years weren't very easy either. And they're never really supposed to be. I mean, if they were, you wouldn't really learn anything, would you? But going through it, I always thought I was being picked on by forces that I couldn't see, which I was. But I always knew that there was this divine mother, father, God figure that always had my back. I always knew that this, and I don't want to say Jesus Christ, but I always knew that there's this being, this Christ light is within me and everybody. So whenever I would speak to people, I would speak to that spark, not to them, but the light inside them. And when I met my twin, and we got together, and it was the most amazing experience. Yeah, a lot of terrible things happened, but the good were far better than any other terrible things. And the more good things we did, and the more lives we affected, the more darkness attempted to dim both of our light. And looking back on things now with hindsight, I see how every time something terrible happened, there was a choice to have been made prior to that negative experience occurring. A choice to not feed the darkness. Whatever it looks like for you, don't feed it. If it means you talking back to someone when they're arguing at you, that talking back is feeding it. Scoffing, rolling your eyes, not giving a homeless person money, it all feeds the darkness in you and changes you into someone you're not, until the person you were becomes a distant memory, and the person you are is someone you hate, and the person you're becoming is someone you can't even think about, so you just avoid it all and you wither away. when there is great light in the world, darkness sees it first. And when darkness sees that great light, they don't know how to be anything other than fearful. Because that light is designed to transmute the darkness, to bring it back into itself. All darkness was light before, until every bad deed built an empire of evil. So take a look around your world. Take a look around your home. And then take a look at yourself. How are you contributing to the dimming of the light of life and people, and those around you, and yourself, in nature? When you're walking down the street and you see a garbagey thing on the floor, a bottle or some paper, or do you pick it up and throw it in a trash can, or do you just walk past it? Walking past it feeds the dark. Picking it up and putting it into the trash can feeds the light. Every small act of kindness, every small gesture of grace it makes more difference than you realize. Even the words have been taken from people. Do you remember the sacredness of the word sacred, or holy, or divine? Now they just seem like catchphrases in a YouTube search, don't they? But 100 years ago, 200 years ago, when people lived differently, those words meant something. And I'm asking you, please, find the sacred holiness inside you. Live your life as if you really are a divine being and a vessel for God to experience life through you. Acknowledge that you are God, with God. You are not above God. You are not beneath God. You are with God. You are not alone. You are not in danger. Allow the courage of your heart to shine brighter than the fear of hatred. I love you. Do the right thing.